Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Off the Rack. I'm Sal.
I'm Tiffany.
Oh, we're talking about comic books this week, like we do every week here on ComicPop Returns. I have a question that I have not actually made a poll for, which I should have, because we had a poll on one of our most recent episodes, and that was insightful and helpful. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it over on the Patreon. So if you want to help out, you can always join us on patreon.com/comicpop and get early access to back issues and a special exclusive podcast that comes out once a month where I just give you the behind the scenes curtain access to what's going on with the goings on here at Comic Pop and more and stuff like that. And I usually, if I have a question or I have like a thought or I want to make some kind of big change or I have some like concept I want to get through, I usually toss it to the patrons first because, you know, they're going above and beyond to help us out. And so we appreciate it. But of course, you'll never need Patreon to watch the show. You can always help us out the most direct way by watching the show, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, clicking the bell for notifications, and turning on your notifications so you know when we're going live. Because, of course, you will get a notification if we're going live on Mondays around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every week, where we can talk about comic books and comic news.
Accept the fact it's 6.
It is 6. You know what? Let's just say 6. It's 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we did start a little earlier than usual this time around. So, you know, but it was still 6. It was after 6. But we also talk about the world of comic book news and comic book related news, like comic book entertainment. For example, fun fact, they did cast Galactus for the upcoming Fantastic Four movie, which is a little baffling. And before we get into the casting of Galactus, which of course, it's very, you know, who cares? You know, it's Ralph Ineson is playing him. I know him. You know him from nothing, and he's in a lot of stuff that I've never seen because I lack, any cultural awareness. But we did look him up, and we heard him in an interview. And what do you think, Tiffany?
He's got a crazy voice.
He's got a crazy voice, which is the only requirement I have for Galactus.
Yeah,
is that he's got to sound friggin' dope and crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm genuinely, I said this to you earlier, I'll say it here on mic, but I'm a little genuinely surprised that they didn't go the whole Treebeard route, where they were like, well, we have John Rhys-Davies, he's playing Gimli, why don't we have him play Treebeard as well? And just have him do a slightly different voice, and it'll be weird because you're watching it and going, he sounds like
he's the dad
Gimli.
from The Witch.
Is he the dad from The Witch?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I do know him, and
So
he
we've
did
seen him.
have a crazy voice.
He had a crazy voice in that too. That's
so
right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're absolutely right. No, good call. Thanks, Chad. But yeah, when it comes to that, I don't know where I was going with that.
You were going with the idea of Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes, I'm shocked because Benedict Cumberbatch played, you know, an American in the MCU. They didn't just go, oh, do your Smaug voice or something for Galactus.
No, this guy sounds like I bet when they, you know, do whatever they're gonna do post-process of his voice acting, he has like this really, it's just a very intense voice. It's like it does sound a little bit like the universe is talking to you.
Exactly. Yes. It's got the gravitas, it's got the vibrato, it's got everything. It's got the weight and the intimidation. It's great. And it's not one I know. It's not one that I'm familiar with. It's not, there people were like, oh, we got to get so and so, you know, just different actors from beyond the pale to get into this. It's like, no, I don't want to think of anybody. You know, like I heard a lot of people suggesting Javier Bardem as Galactus. I was like, what an odd choice. What a weird thing that a odd amount of people were all kind of behind. You know, just, you never know.
I mean, now I know what I'm going to think of, but that's okay. I'm all right.
Yeah, right. The dad from The Witch.
Yes.
Which is like thinking of nothing because I didn't even remember he did that. But yeah,
that's such a good movie, though.
That's exciting. But I wanted to ask you about this with respect to the Fantastic Four movie, because of course we got that great art that was their kind of like cast reveal, because they didn't, I think, have anyone from the cast in the same room at the same time with a costume on, probably because the costumes are all going to be CG like they were in Doctor Strange 2. Most of them weren't wearing suits, especially John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. You know, it's for one thing, I love what they did, how they made that announcement and had art, like actual comic art, or at least comic adjacent art to promote it. But what do you think of the idea that it's a Fantastic Four from another reality that's going to be coming over to this reality, as opposed to it just being like, we just haven't met the Fantastic Four yet in the MCU? Like,
I think it's very Rick and Morty.
Yeah. Well, they do,
as though ours died.
right? There was a thing they did up there, and then they died.
Is
They got
that
hit
what
by a
you think
cosmic
is
ray.
going to happen?
No, I don't. I mean, is that what I just suggested? The concept of them being from another reality? That's the pitch. That is what's coming from the official sources at Marvel, is that they're from another reality. That we're gonna meet them in their reality, and then they're gonna come over to this reality.
It's kind of bizarre.
Seems like a
I mean, I
needlessly
guess
circuitous.
Yeah, I guess it's all right. I get why. I guess I get why, but I
Oh,
don't.
please explain it, because I don't.
Well, I mean, because it's it's clean that way.
Is it cleaner that way?
I feel like for them it is. They you get to start with like ground up, all new sort of experiences for them in a world in which they were a team and then went away
Mm-hmm.
and then came back.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of rehashing out the like man out of time.
Yeah, the
Because
Captain America
a lot
concept.
has happened.
Yeah.
Additionally, like certain players who probably don't want to be involved necessarily anymore. Like yes, Tony's gone,
Right.
but like Pepper's still around. She probably would have known at least them, but Gwyneth doesn't want to be in them anymore. You know what I
No,
mean?
that's
Like
true.
I just feel like this for them is clean.
Yeah.
They get to come and they get to experience this for the first time, and maybe it's like a warning, like because Galactus is coming.
Right. Because of course, the Silver Surfer is going to be Shalabal as the Silver Surfer in this in the reality that they're coming from.
Sure.
It just seems like not to get into the Silver Surfer at all, but more like
I'm like I just don't care enough about the Silver Surfer to be like to like lament that.
Yeah, no, it's not even the lamentation for me. It's more like, so they're going to be from a reality where they were superheroes or they were these people that did all this stuff, and then they're going to leave to a new reality that doesn't know them.
Yeah,
it's just it seems like a weird choice. For me, it's like, I almost liked the idea of them being like 1960s explorers that got lost in the negative zone for 30 years.
Right, but like I said, that's still rehashing.
But it's more of a Captain America concept.
Yeah, you're rehashing that Captain America story that way.
Yeah.
I know, like this is sort of important for them to make sure they nail. Because I feel like a lot of folk haven't really been thrilled with a lot of what they've been doing. And so like even though it's funny, I feel like there are definitely Fantastic Four fans out there. There are people who love them. There are people who do read their stuff fairly religiously as long as they have it ongoing.
Yep.
And I think there are people who, dip their toe in the water here and there. But it's one of those funny fandoms where it's like people become protective of it, not because necessarily they love it, but because of the fact that it's just it's a
staple.
It's a staple, and they're to be protected, even if you're not someone who is an active reader of them. You feel like they need to be handled with like
I'm sure
care.
There's a ton of people who are Superman people like that. People who don't read Superman who also were like, but he also needs to be a very specific way.
Yeah,
look at it that way for the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I mean, I think Superman's a more tangled web at this point.
Well, he is an icon. Like Superman is more of a national, piece of iconography of Americana.
Yeah.
Rather than Fantastic Four being just like a beloved franchise or a staple of a, because you're right. You're hitting on something interesting because like I never really read the Fantastic Four as a kid, or if I did, it was tangential.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would come in a comic book pack with a bunch of other books, or something would happen to Spider-Man and it would be referenced. They'd cite a Fantastic Four issue, so I go check that out. Or I found out, oh, Dr. Octopus fought Mr. Fantastic in a Fantastic Four book. I guess I'll read that.
Yeah.
And so I was only on the fringe. But I also have a very clear idea of who the Fantastic Four are and what their whole deal is, because they are, the foundation of the Marvel Universe, and they set a tone for their whole reality, and so I think they're more like a pillar of the reality as opposed to a book I want to read week to week.
Yeah. So I feel like people have a lot of like. Maybe not like they're not angry necessarily. I don't know. I haven't really been like following what's been going on with that. I feel like my feed has just been filled with like Superman, yay and nay.
Oh, absolutely.
But when it comes to the Fantastic Four, I think Marvel, hopefully, it feels like they're proceeding cautiously.
I would hope.
Like it was like, here's this image, and the image was, drawn as opposed to just being like a photo or like a sloppily put together Photoshop job, like or something AI generated. It's like, here's this you
Here's this
know,
piece of
image
art.
that's like meant to evoke a time long past, right?
Yes.
And like light and hope and what have you.
Right.
And then we're like just learning information slowly
Right.
about them. You know, it's funny the emphasis on them coming from another reality. You know, I assume this is coming. Is it coming directly from Marvel? Is it coming from insiders?
Yeah, as I understand it, that's like a Feige thing.
Right, and I wonder if that's like one of the last like hang-ons to like their emphasis on multiverses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they're like, "Ooh, we gotta hang on to that."
We gotta Secret Wars this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it would be. I the reason I guess I like this idea right now, like sight unseen without really knowing much more about it, is that there's like a mystery for me than what happened. Like, where's our version?
Yeah, that's fair.
Where are they?
Right.
What happened to them?
But that's a problem for me because it's like that makes me think of not what I'm getting, but rather what I'm not getting, which is I think a problem that the MCU has overall, which is of course like people just looking at what they've been given that spent years and money and time, and all you're thinking of is the post-credit scene or the promise of the next thing as opposed to like whatever we're getting at the time.
I mean, I feel like a lot of this cast will endear yourself to them, and
yeah, I will not miss the
MCU
Prime Fantastic Four.
It feels as though people will probably enjoy the characters in spite of what the story is, and it's only like maybe we'll see. Again, like this is based off of like a one sentence rumor or like pitch that you're telling me.
Exactly.
But if it were to be that, you know, since a lot of like it seems like folk are kind of like, okay, like that, guess.
Yeah, no,
like,
I haven't heard anybody say like boo.
No. But like even you talking about it, you're just kind of like, I guess, like why wouldn't you just do it more directly?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you go about it in a streamlined fashion?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like people will question it afterwards. You know, it's like one of those things where it's like, I really enjoyed watching that movie because these people are fun and I like these actors. As opposed to like, you know, being like, wow, everything was a really comprehensive package. And then afterwards you're like, oh wait, that didn't really make any sense. Or, you know, it'd be better if it was this, but you know, I like these guys. They're fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, even if you're not a big fan of Iron Man 3,
right?
You know, you still watch it.
I still will enjoy it
because it's Robert Downey Jr. is
everybody in it's great.
He's charming and infectious.
Yeah.
You can't help but enjoy, you know, when he's on screen. But
I think they're certainly banking on the fact that like, you know, Pedro Pascal has a similar reaction from the audience.
Yeah. No, he's got real like, you know,
presence.
Yeah, and like, you know, sexy dad energy going on there.
That's true.
He brings that to the party.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm interested to learn more about them, and I'm interested to learn about who they are. I mean, maybe they're a better version of it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean,
like you watch Rick and Morty without thinking too much about
the alternates of
the fact that it's like, oh, that's not really them from here.
Yeah, but also
that's here for their story.
That's a nihilistic show.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
The multiverse of it all is essentially trying to talk about how we're all unspecial.
Yeah,
this is, you know, the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But it's a quandary, certainly. I mean, you know, also apparently John Malkovich has been cast in an undisclosed role in the Fantastic Four movie.
Interesting.
I say Puppet Master, but people are quick to say Mole Man because he's unconventional looking.
Maybe he's Herbie.
He could be Herbie. I heard there was somebody that they were thinking of for Herbie already, because Herbie, of course, will be in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
You don't want to say hi to Harper out loud?
Hi, Harper. How are you? But yeah, man, I don't know. It's interesting. The Fantastic Four movie is gonna be tough. I'll tell you what what Marvel has a really tough sell with. The Fantastic Four movie is gonna happen, and people are gonna like it or not. End of story.
Yeah.
X-Men.
Oh no, that
especially
one,
with the elephant in the room being the animated series
that
and how successful.
That one has to be. You know, this was smart that they went Fantastic Four first. I think that's what we had originally talked about, that we thought that was the better move than to try to figure out how to get the X-Men in there. Because the fact is, it's like the Fantastic Four, you know, having not had a presence previously in the Marvel universe and bringing them here brings with them obviously like a Reed level intellect. I mean, we had Tony,
right?
But now you have like a purely scientific mind.
You have someone smarter than Tony.
Yeah. So you really open the door to all sorts of zany scientific possibilities on how we get to see X-Men, to see mutants. I don't know what those are, and I you know, and I shouldn't, because like I'm not being
brought in. They're not, yeah, you're not consulting.
I'm not consulting because I don't know how they would handle this. But I think this is smart to buy themselves time. There is a lot of excitement, regardless of, again, like, if you're a big reader of Fantastic Four, big characters come from this. Even if you're not a big Fantastic Four fan, you probably enjoy Doctor Doom. You probably enjoy Galactus.
Right.
As world level threats go, even if we've seen Galactus in other Fantastic Four movies, or we've had other like world ending beings arrive,
yes,
there's still something exciting and terrifying about Galactus
absolutely
arriving.
No, I think it should be. Certainly, hopefully, I love Galactus as a concept, and
like,
I can't wait to see it.
And hopefully, even though he is like a force of the universe, like, to see him as
he's also a dude,
as a being,
yeah.
But being a force of the universe as opposed to like Thanos's will,
right? Like
it's
a
little different, where it's just like, this is what he does.
Yes, yeah. The concept of the and that's something that's very rare that's explored in the MCU, especially, is the idea of there being like consciousnesses out there that are enduring elements of the universe that we consider to be like intrinsic and ineffable, but also we can't like help ourselves but create an identity for them and then fight against them. Like we don't have a problem, we as a society don't have an issue with solar wind, and yet it exists. And so it is with the Galactus, but we have a name for it, and it's a guy, and he at least presents as as a person. He has a face. But yeah, so just a little thought exercise before we get into the comics.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm happy to do that. I apparently had more to talk about with that than
Indeed.
I initially thought I would.
But I'm excited because we want to mention that this show is sponsored by viewers like you. If you like the show and you want to sponsor today's show, you can do so by using Super Chats. Ask a question or comment, we'll read it here on the show and be part of the show forever. But getting into the comic book specifically, what do we got?
Hang on. I'm sorry. He plays Sid in Final Fantasy. That's fun.
Oh.
So, not like having only played like maybe a handful of Final Fantasy games, only having played 1, 2 all the way through.
Yeah.
Not the first one. I mean like 2 Final Fantasy games all the way through.
Yes.
Sid is a repeating character. He's in like almost every Final Fantasy, if not every Final Fantasy.
Yeah, he's the Randall Flagg of Final Fantasy.
Sure. There's just certain hallmarks of a Final Fantasy game. So that's really fun. I can see that. I feel like, anyone can play him, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm just used to Final Fantasy X's Sid. Anyway, go
on. So yeah, I ended up reading Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, number 6, from Patrick Horvath. This is the penultimate issue of this entire series. And I got sucked in because we ended up having a conversation with Patrick and Scott Snyder together. This is a fully painted Richard Scarry meets Dexter comic book series. I'm sure we'll see another one of these, despite the fact that this seems to be pretty much self-contained. It's not like a franchise. It's not a continuation.
But there could be other stories from this world,
no question. And I think that the audience it like has spoken about whether this is acceptable or not, and people like it and they want it.
This cover, I enjoy it, but I also don't.
Yeah, no, the very that's very much Horvath's art style. It's like it's unnerving, and I don't know if I like looking at it most of the time. I don't care to look at it most of the time, but that's because of the subject matter and the way that it's presented. But yeah, the idea is, of course, our protagonist has been outed as a murderer because of another murderer within the town, and she attempts to escape into the city where she's most effective as a murderer, and ends up going into the woods and further complicating the narrative because she runs into a bear, a real bear in the woods, and sees the bear perform a kill, and then
it's just one of those worlds.
It's one of those worlds. Okay, yeah, and it's
I didn't remember that. I know I checked out one of the issues.
It's like a dog person with a dog.
I remember that now. Thank you.
That they walk.
Yes,
it's oh, so it's like Pluto. Goofy's a man, but Pluto's a dog. But yeah, we actually ended up talking about that. That's actually one of the things that came up in our conversation on this channel.
That's great.
But yeah, it's funny. So she's right, we're all animals. And I'm like, don't pull that through. Okay. But yeah, that's the idea, is that we're actually exploring that concept, but at least, and not in a weird way where it's we came from that and now we're this, and I don't want to devolve. No, it's more we're all animals.
Right.
But about who about what you can do and how you can like grab destiny by the horns, whether you have them or not as an animal person. But you know, it was a book that I dismissed very quickly. And when I read the first issue, I was like, nah, I see. And I deliberately tried to like pour over the art because of how like deliberately it was made and how it was all like, you know, hand painted. And it's so rare to see. And, and the fact that it's even put out in any, you know, expediency, the fact that the book comes out on time is like a miracle because of the nature of its production and how it doesn't look rushed. It's not like issue 4 sucks, you know, because Horvath like realized that the, you know, he had to rush his work. But I for the interview, I ended up like reading all the way through, like to the point where I could, and I ended up like just not necessarily loving it, but I needed to know what happened, and I think that's like the mark of a fine story.
Absolutely, so. Absolutely. I kind of wish sometimes we had more time when the guys were around, because I'm just going back to that Goofy Pluto thing. I'd love to get Ethan.
Oh my god,
like, on that.
And he wouldn't help it. He'd be in it. Like he'd be caught. He'd have an opinion.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I read Wolverine number 49 this week.
Oh no!
The penultimate, funnily enough,
yes,
that this is also the penultimate issue of the Sabretooth War, written by Victor Lavelle and Ben Percy, with art by Jeff Shaw.
You love Jeff Shaw.
Yeah, I do enjoy his work for sure. And he's been on this the whole time. I kind of thought going into this that this was going to be like, okay, like we're going to see like 2 issues of Wolverine and Sabretooth fighting. We're going to see 1 issue of Sabretooth and Wolverine fighting, which is fine because it'll probably be the entire issue.
Right.
Because really, I mean, this series or this event, I don't want to call it an event. This storyline, this arc, this whatever, this trade,
has 2 trades. Probably it's part 9. They're not going to put all 10 parts in there.
Has 2 trades. Like maybe 1. Like 1. Well, they'll do 2 and then there'll be 1.
Well, it depends. DC is the ones who go like, 12-issue miniseries. Well, here's a hardcover of issues 1 through 6.
Yeah, it might be 2 or it might be 1. You know, just to put all of Sabretooth War.
It would be cheaper to just produce 1.
Yeah,
and that's the Marvel way. Excelsior.
But you know, this series has really attempted to explore because this could have been its own. It didn't have to be called Wolverine. It could have just been called, like, you know, Sabretooth War.
Wow, you just described Ben Percy's entire run on X-Men.
What?
Like, that didn't have to be part of whatever we were working on. That could have been its own thing.
Yeah, and admittedly, like, this story could have taken place
at any time.
Almost at any time.
Except for all the family.
There's certain elements that we need from here. So it's like, no, this is really like, this had to happen here. The family, elements of Krakoa, in order to make sure that Creed has, you know, inner dialogue or a certain look back at his history. In this, we see he's like stuck in a little like Krakoan pod, essentially, where he thinks he's just going to be going back through his memories, but like he has the opportunity to go through those memories in the position of his victims. And so you think like, he'll understand or get a little humanity. No, he doesn't. He just, by the end of this, we're like, no, listen, if you thought for 1 second that Sabretooth wasn't a monster, I'm sorry, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know, and even though the book is like, you know, you've played hero before. Like you've been on that side. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not.
Right.
Like I'm not. No.
Yeah.
No. When Wolverine and I have our big fight, you know who to root for.
Yes.
It ain't me.
That's fair.
You know?
Can't argue with that.
But like I should really go back and look at the issues, because I hadn't really thought about this until now. That, you know, this is Lavelle's name is first on this, and obviously he had been carrying the Sabretooth, you know, book story prior to that, prior to this, you know, mini series. But this is a very heavy like Sabretooth issue, and he has first billing on it. Interesting. So I was just like,
so like maybe Lavelle has been covering most of the Sabretooth.
Yeah, more of the Sabretooth elements of things, which would make sense, and I really appreciate that commitment to a creator's take on a character. You know, we've seen plenty of times where someone's like, I want to use this character. Well, they're doing something over there in the book. Yeah, but I want to do this in my book. Right. So I'm just going to completely contradict whatever they're doing elsewhere. Right. And like, this is just such a collaboration, it feels like.
So that should be celebrated. That's good.
I mean, like, hopefully hopefully they agree. I have no idea, but it'd be kind of cool to hear like Lavelle and Percy talk about this series and how to collaborate like this, because I can't imagine it's easy.
Remember when CBR had that great show that you used to host called Dynamic Duos?
Stop.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
They're just going to take that idea if you put it out there.
Maybe I'll take it myself.
We'll
make that happen.
But like we get some, like, for me, this type of page, you know, like hear me out. Imagine this for a second. It's a page where it's a character's face and they're screaming, and like in the back of their head somehow is a whole bunch of stuff. That for me is such a classic comic book.
Oh my God.
Like panel.
Yes.
And we get one of those in here. I can't even be mad about it. It's not even like, I mean, like, yeah.
No,
I mean,
it's not.
It's like
it's
tropey.
not hackery. Like,
it's not hackery. It's just, it's fun to see it, and it's earned here, because you think like you really do think for a second like Creed's gonna be like, oh, this is what I've been doing to people.
I belong here.
I'm a monster.
But it's like, no, yeah.
Almost like having like the Ghost Rider penance stare. But no,
he's like, yeah, I love it. I'm a monster.
Yeah, and like Shaw really does a great job of it, you know, where he's just like, nah, man, like you think this is a trap, but like this is just feeding me.
Yeah.
You know, and like the person there who's like interviewing him, or like, you know, being like a therapist for him is Doug, but it's not really Doug. It's like Krakoa's like impression of Doug being there. And I love it because he's like, you know, this manifestation's like, I kind of thought like maybe if you understood what you were putting people through, you know, I don't know, maybe you'd shake free of this. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And like there's like this beat of a panel where it's like that that sort of like Ma moment for Miyazaki, where there's like that quiet before something else happens, and then he just is like, you know, I'm sorry, do you not? But do you know who I am? Like, do
you know you're talking to Sabretooth, right?
Right, like, you know,
I brutalized Psylocke twice.
Exactly. And so like, while that's going on, and Sabretooth is getting himself ready for the final fight with Wolverine. Wolverine has been getting himself ready for his final fight, including taking down like one of the last members of like the Sabretooth like
group. Yeah, the Sabreteeth.
The Sabretooth, which is Bad Seed, like Sabretooth's son from another, you know, place, another multiverse.
Yeah.
He's the only one left. So Wolverine and here having a fight, you know, he doesn't want anyone else to like to die. He wants to send the new exiles away, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure.
You know, X-Force has arrived as well, so they're like looking on at everything.
Which beast is on?
None of them right now.
Okay,
because it's like, you know, so
it's still like within the framework of that
of this story. So I assume I don't want to assume. I assume
that there'll be a big fight.
There'll be a big fight, but I don't really know. I have no idea.
You assumed from the same author that maybe there might be some kind of huge fallout between the beasts, and yet it really only resolved itself in about what, 2 panels?
It did.
So
but you know, it's great.
But did they justify the adamantium armor? Is it still?
He still got it.
Is it still totally boss and cool?
I mean, we haven't really seen him use it like right in the last. Well, not yet. I mean, like we're really amping up to this, and I think I kind of appreciate that. That, you know, yes, there has been violence in this, and you know, the book had been like, oh, watch out. It's like, watch out, parents, don't let your kids see this. You know, it's been like really
wasn't
violent,
really that bad.
But like, well, I mean, early on, it was like a lot of people were really turned off, I think, by some of the gore. But the fact is, it's like there has been violence in this and there has been action in this, but I feel like they've kind of dialed it down. And I think it's to give us that breath, and especially when you're reading this as trade, so that in theory, with whatever comes next, it will probably be more impactful. You know, those who were like, I'm not a fan of this. Well, when it's wrapped up, maybe go take a look at it. You know, like know that the whole thing hasn't been a gore fest.
Right.
That it really is an examination of these two characters. But there is violence in this quite a bit.
Good.
There's a lot of character death in this. But yeah. So there you go. Have we answered how Wolverine is able to like stand up? No, but you know, you're reading a story with a guy with 6 knives coming out of his head.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sometimes it's okay to just suspend that disbelief.
Wouldn't it be nice? I read Amazing Spider-Man number 49 from Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. This is of course a Blood Hunt tie-in, but it isn't, because like nothing is. And so
those guys look like they're cheering him on.
Yeah, Spider-Man, you can do it. Climb. He's like, that's what I do. I don't need your help.
Like as though they were all part of a team, and like Spider-Man's the only one who has to get over, and then they can like ring the thing, and you know. Yeah,
he's the American Spider Warrior. But yeah, this is a tie-in as much as Spider-Man. You know, this is a Zeb Wells kind of like almost done in one. Where it is very much self-contained. Spider-Man is in the middle of like a big fight with vampires. He's like, I'm fighting vampires, you know, and this is nice because I've had a very like crappy run. I mean, a bunch of stuff going on in my life, and it's nice to just turn my brain off and know like who the bad guys are and who I can just punch and not worry about it. And then he gets a call from a character that Wells set up earlier, who's Stuppen, another character I hate that I don't like seeing, a White Rabbit. And she's been turned into a vampire. And he's like, this dude's like, I'm banging White Rabbit.
Who hasn't been turned into a vampire?
Spider-Man. And so, he's like, White Rabbit's a vampire. I need your help. Come help me. So he does. And essentially what happens is Spider-Man learns a valuable lesson about how they're all vampires are people. And so he feels really bad about punching them at the end of the story.
All vampires are people.
They used to be anyway. And
that really goes against a lot of the other things I've been. Okay.
Yeah, but that's okay because the people who he's punching are all transformed into vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
vampires are always what?
No, but I used to just punch them, because it felt good. But now I feel bad because they used to be someone else.
But you knew that, like just by the
but I didn't think about it.
But
I needed to be reminded. I needed a story, a full blown story where I see the consequences of like someone, because he runs into like the vampire that turns White Rabbit was a guy, and he's like, and Spider-Man is easily duped into thinking, you need to have these stakes, just kill the head vampire, and that'll cure White Rabbit. And Spider-Man's like, yeah, I do that all the time. I kill people all the time, even if they're aliens or vampires or undead. Like I definitely have never had a moral quandary killing anyone, particularly if they're like, special. Batman will kill a vampire. Spider-Man will not kill a vampire.
Yeah.
I can't imagine poor little Peter Parker from Queens stabbing someone in the chest and going like, nailed it.
No, and like there's, I don't know.
It's terrible.
It's like it'd be one of those things
so
where
insulting.
If they weren't vampires, it was something else. Like it was some weird looking creature from wherever.
Yeah.
And then like it turns out it's like those are people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's just he forgot that they were people, or he doesn't think about how they're people. And then person
it's the blood
shows
hunt.
up.
It's getting to him.
So he goes to kill this. So Spider-Man, our favorite Peter Parker, goes to murder someone. And that person is like, oh, you're here to kill me. Thank God. I deserve this because I'm a vampire and I don't want to be one. And I didn't mean to, I didn't choose to become a vampire. Someone turned me, but I'm living a waking nightmare and I hate being alive. So please just stab me to death.
Oh, okay.
And Peter's like, no. Oh my God. That's horrific. I'm sorry. I can't believe I was even talked into murdering a person with a filed down stake. And that person that convinced me was a career criminal I've only known for like a handful of minutes.
I mean, I guess it really depends on vampire rules here.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
so,
like,
it does. He does.
Is the Montesi formula the only thing that can?
Well, you'll talk about the Montesi formula in a minute.
That would kill them. That wouldn't get rid of them.
That would destroy them, yeah. But anyway, so he doesn't, but then the other guy does. Like the guy that hired Spider-Man or convinced him to do it, he kills the guy from behind. And so he dies, and Peter feels really, really bad about it, and then leaves, and he's like back where he started. It's like a framing device. He starts punching vampires. He's like, yeah, I feel good. And then he goes through this adventure where he realizes vampires are human beings, and then he gets back to punching them, and he's like, oh my God, but what do these be like? These people were all children and sons and fathers and mothers and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, I understand. Like, and I was like, for a minute, I want to talk about it because I was like, oh, that's actually like, this feels like a Spider-Man comic book. It feels especially like a tie-in comic book, because like a lot of like, when you're reading Daredevil or Spider-Man and they have to like tie in with like a massive event from like, 30 years ago. Most of the time, the writers didn't want to do that. And so they use it as an opportunity to like do something or talk about something or say something about like, something else, like, what if it was like, you could have completely changed it if the vampire was a little boy. It's a kid. Child vampire. Now you're like, oh, but no, but so but because of like and it's just the allowances that it takes to get there. Like it's so frustrating every time where it's like you don't like. Yes, on the surface, this is a story, and it's a story that I kind of like asked for, but you have to take so many like liberties with like what people understand the character to be, and not like, oh, well, I understand the character to be that Aunt May's dead, or I understand the character to be that he has a symbiote, or I understand the character to be he's married. None of that. Just the fact that he doesn't murder people. Like it's just a very simple conceit. Peter Parker could not take a wooden stake and drive it through anyone's heart, whether they were a vampire or not.
Yeah.
And he's convinced to do it by a person he doesn't even know. If you put it in a position where like maybe Mary Jane asked him to do it, or maybe if like J. Jonah Jameson told me how to do it. Jameson's like, screw him. He's like one of those people. Like that guy on the boat in Dark Knight where he's like, I'll do it.
Right.
In fact, that would actually just pitch the better Blood Hunt tie-in, where Spider-Man and Peter Parker and J. Jonah Jameson are, they have to solve this problem with vampires, blah, blah, blah. Somebody they know, Robbie's a vampire. And J. Jonah Jameson's like, I got to kill him. It's just like, that's what we do. And Peter's like, we got to figure out a solution. And then J. Jonah Jameson's like, no. Like, we got to make hard and fast rules here. Robbie is no longer a person. I'm going to stab him with this piece of wood. And they find him, and Robbie talks to him, and he's like, I'm a vampire. And J. Jonah Jameson's like, okay, here we go. I can't do it. That's a story. And it understands character. I'm not pitching. I'm not trying to say that, like, I'd write Spider-Man better, but, like, I shouldn't think I can at this point. But, the book sells every month. So what do I know? Moving on. What did you? Oh, you know what? Before we get into it, let's read a couple of super chats.
Okay.
Hulkzilla, happy Mondays as always. You too, man. Love the Superman versus Hulk episode. Thank you very much. It was really fun. Also, super duper hope Galactus is John Justice. Praying really hard here. Well, I hope your prayers are answered.
For some reason, I heard you say Johnny Justice, and I was like, "Who's Johnny Justice?" Then I was like, "Oh, Dunn Justice." Okay, never mind.
Tylor DeBoer says, "I just picked up the most of the '90s DC comic scare tactics about a monster band. Any obscure teams that you'd like to make a reappearance? Are you scared?
Well, you shouldn't be,
because you're on scare tactics.
You really should still be scared. I mean, like, you're still afraid of what you're seeing.
Yeah. As far as obscure teams go, I mean, I'd like to see the New Bloods return. What about you, Tiffany?
I don't really have an obscure team that I'd like to see. I mean,
or the Cyber Rats.
You and your Cyber Rats.
The Phoenix Jedi says, did y'all get to read both versions of Blood Hunt? The mature version of Blood Hunt seems like it takes place in an alternate timeline with how it ends. No.
Uh-oh. Check that out.
Thank you for your ask. No, I didn't. I read that it was like basically it had more ads in the physical edition, and it was also like just
well, we could buy the Comixology version.
Oh yeah, we could do that. That's what we should do.
Yeah.
But thank you. Arduit says, I'm just not a fan of Pedro Pascal as Reed. Like, I don't dislike Pedro, but he seems too warm to be Reed, and he can't do everything. Yeah, I don't like the idea of like using an actor too much just because they're the it actor, but like that's why Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange. But also, yeah, I like the idea that he's too warm to be Reed, because then maybe people will like him.
Right.
Because people will hate him for virtually no reason, or because they just don't like,
or maybe like, I don't know, like I don't know enough of his work. Yeah. But like, he's in The Last of Us.
Yeah, he's a monster in that too.
Yeah, like, so I feel like he can do it. Like, when you think of Pedro as Pedro, and you think of him in like interviews, or when he's doing like the food tasting
or
things
SNL or something,
like,
yeah,
he is Pedro. But he's an actor, and hopefully he'll bring something different. Like, he'll understand who the character
That'd be nice.
is. But like, his Joel is very different than
than the Mandalorian.
Well, than himself.
Yes.
So
that's true.
I like to think he might be able to do it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, he brings something different to the table with that for certain.
I think so.
Very different than the Nick Cage movie too.
Yes. Oh yeah, the unbearable weight of massive talent.
There you go.
I should also point out that John Romita Jr.'s art, it was fun, and it was similar to what he's used to. It wasn't like he was under deadline. It wasn't as sloppy as it has been in the past on his work. Very much similar to, but not as good as, like the Babylon 5 creator J. Michael Straczynski's run. But it's still, worth pointing out. And it ends with the lizard showing up. He's like, now I'm gonna fight you. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So underwhelmed was I that I forgot about like the big fun like reveal at the end.
Were you whelmed?
I was underwhelmed. Yeah, no. And Cat Loyal Fan for Treats. Thoughts on Distillery? I loved Somna and Spectrograph.
I have Somna. I think it's beautiful. Like, it's just like they're getting some really, really great art in there. I can't remember if I picked up the Jock book as well. I mean, I think like it's just Distillery gives you a great opportunity to get those, oversized Black Label-esque books about characters who aren't Batman. And I think that there's a wide variety of writers, artists, and topics. So it's, grab the ones you like.
Yeah. Bryce Harriet, hi, thank you for the awesome back issues with Ultimate Armor riding a motorcycle. How long do you think it will be until we get an Akira slide? I mean, they usually throw those in there at any time. There's somebody driving a motorcycle. So I think it's only a matter of time.
Just looking for it.
Jason Hedelson, color-themed villains always duping Peter. Black Fox, Black Cat, White Rabbit. They should team up. I agree. I think so. Yeah.
Just the monochromes.
Yeah. The monochromes are the the critters. I don't know. Anyway, what do you got?
I figured since you were talking about Blood Hunt stuff, I would stick with that. So I actually ended up reading Blood Hunters #1. This is like a little mini series tie-in that involves 3 different groups.
Yes.
So it's there's a Hawkeye book that's written by Mark Russell with art by Bob Quinn. There's a Man-Wolf story in there by Christos Gage and art by Javier Garron. And then there is a Dagger book written by Erica Schultz with art by Bernard Chang.
Cool.
2 of these are like super like humorous feeling.
Okay.
And one of them a little less so.
All right.
So Hawkeye, this is very like tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic sort of story. It's really about being a New Yorker.
Okay.
And that like New Yorkers wouldn't be afraid of vampires or whatever. Like, he rallies the troops by being like, you know what you do as a New Yorker every day? Come on, we can do this together.
Okay.
And that's really what it is. Like that's what this story is. It's cute, living across the river from them. I was like, fun. Obviously they're still dealing with vampires. But like they do solve it, and like you can see the dominoes being set up for Hawkeye to use to get these people to safety.
Sure.
It includes, a guy with like a wooden puppet. It involves like a random like guy who's like a miner who's got like a big pickaxe who enters in like all of the shoveler.
Yes.
And a priest with a water tower. So you can see where this is all coming together. It's clever. It's cute. It's got some heart to it, and Clint doesn't get arrested, so that's good for him.
Oh, that's great.
And then the Man-Wolf story is really a J. Jonah Jameson story.
Cool. It's fun.
He and his son are like, oh, we gotta go to this thing. I think we're going to lunch. They're going to a lunch reservation, and they go outside, and it's like, oh no, it's dark, and there's like a vampire, like a big vampire bat thing, and so he Man-Wolfs out, and they have a big fight, and we see that like everything is dark, and Captain Marvel and I think it's Captain Marvel and Thor are fighting in the sky. And this is like one of the first times where I realized, I was like, this suddenly made me feel like King in Black with like this, like the world being like
overrun
and dark.
Yes.
And
not to be confused with that other one.
Oh yeah. No, that is what
was
I'm
that
thinking
Damnation?
Of. No, it wasn't Damnation.
It was the other one.
It was the other one. The totally forgettable one.
Yeah. That's the one.
The one that were like Hopeless took on Strange for a little bit and threw Jessica Drew. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, you're thinking of that one.
But that was specifically to New York, so it's like a hybrid of those two.
Yes.
Because this is like worldwide, but that was specifically
just
to New York.
Yeah, when it was plunged into darkness.
Oh my gosh, completely forgot about that. But didn't like just kind of rolled it into a different event where I was just like, that happened over there.
Yeah.
That happened into this one event.
Yeah. But it was also dark in King of Black. Don't forget.
Yeah, there's just a lot, there's just a lot happens when the lights go out.
That's true.
Anyway, Man-Wolf gets bitten. J. Jonah Jameson has like suddenly a bag of like crudely created steaks.
Okay.
That he's like, I'm going to have to kill my son.
Oh, it's that story I pitched.
No, but then like his, he wakes up. He's like, Dad, I'm like Man-Wolf.
Right.
Vampire bites don't work on me.
Okay.
He's like, oh,
yeah,
cool. Okay, great. He keeps trying to get a hold of Spider-Man.
Yes.
Because he's just like, you gotta help me. Come on, you gotta come, whatever. And like essentially what the story ends up being is that like Man-Wolf is upset because not that he thinks Spider-Man's a villain, but his dad seems to only want his he's like, you used to be mad at Spider-Man because he took the emphasis off of like what you called like real heroes like me or like astronauts or whatever.
Yeah.
And now that you're friends with him, all you can think about is like, oh, you wish Spider-Man was here to help you out.
Right.
And Jameson's like, no, I love my son.
Yeah.
Oh no, I love you,
I'm a
son.
big fan of wolves. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. So he like tells like Spider-Man he doesn't need any help, because he's got his son.
Okay.
It's cute.
That's
whatever.
sweet.
Yeah. And then we get the thing that was my favorite part of this. It's Dagger who's like wandering the streets, and essentially she's like, okay, so Cloak is screwed. I got to figure out how to help him. She's being followed by vampires. She fights them, and she does end up killing them. And they in such a way where I love when artists do this, when comics do this, where they've got like the one panel that's like red. Like Chang's really bringing a lot of energy to this story. I feel like I really enjoyed the art in this one.
Fair.
But inevitably, she's fighting down, like she's staring down a larger one. She ends up kind of getting the drop on him. And then she is like, in her thoughts, and another one gets the drop on her, and she realizes, she's like, hey, it's you from the coffee shop. Like, it's a vampire, but it is he's now a vampire. And she's like, no, man, like, come on, you got to be in there. You made, like, we used to love your latte art. We used to come there together, and like, come on, like, sorry, them. I gotta save them, and like all that. And she's trying to get them to come out of it.
Okay.
But they're a vampire.
Right.
Like, it's not, they don't necessarily have the mental, like, fortitude, thank you, in order to make that happen. And so, like, she tries to use her light daggers in order to, like, pin him up against a car without, like, hitting him, so that they could be saved, or either right then and there, or maybe at a later date. But inevitably they break free and are going to, attack her, and then they are, shot by a stake off panel.
Okay.
And Dagger's like, what the heck? Like, like, she's upset about that. She's very much like, she gets the fact that it's like, that was a person, but also, like, she was literally going to become a vampire herself. Like, it had to happen. And who is behind all of that? But it's Elsa Bloodstone.
Yay.
And I'm like,
you're like, oh yeah, why aren't you in the book?
I am in for this team up.
Yeah, that's true. Dagger and Elsa.
Elsa is often, like, forgotten in these, which I think is why, events that include her, I'm always, like, probably more of a fan of them, because she would be all over this 100%.
She should have a tie-in.
But she is a character that you can have her just killing people, like vampires, left and right, because she doesn't regard that. She's like, no, you are a vampire. She's not Spider-Man.
Right.
She carries a shotgun, and she's like, no, I kill monsters all the time.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a person. At the end of the day, like,
you also pull that thread. I killed a lot of people.
Well, also, it's like, if I become a vampire, you're like, that's
you better
bad.
kill
like,
me.
If every super person becomes a vampire, which some of them have, it's like, that's bad for all of us. It's bad for business.
That's true. Yeah.
So actually, by killing them, I'm doing more to help humanity.
Yeah.
She could spin this. But yeah, really like this. I'm looking forward to more of the two of them for sure. I mean, it looks like here that, like, Elsa, at least on an upcoming cover, is with a couple of other characters.
Yeah, or it's a interpretive cover where it's like, those are the three stories.
Yeah,
but either way, that's a fun picture.
Exactly. So I'm thrilled, and I enjoyed this. I'm glad I checked it out.
Yay, that's nice. Moving into the super chats again, Chris Fit. 138 says, I can't stay long, but wanted to send some money for the cause. Well, thank you very much. Don't know if it's on the docket for discussion today, but my favorite part of X97 this week was the near recreation of Pride of the X-Men. Yeah, they did do that. They almost brought in, all they needed to do was bring in Colossus and Dazzler. It's a disappointment that they haven't brought in Colossus. I'm like, why didn't you bring in Colossus? Let's go. Let's get Colossus in here onto the show. But I mean, we haven't, the last episode comes out this Wednesday. We'll talk about it after that, and we'll do like a moratorium on the series. But for now, let's get into some books. I read Spider-Man Shadow of the Green Goblin #2 from J.M. DeMatteis with art by Michael Santa Maria. This is what you want to read from Spider-Man. This is a Spider-Man comic. This is just like, and I know, JMD used to write Spider-Man regularly. He was on the Amazing Spider-Man title in the 90s. He wrote seminal Spider-Man stories, including Kraven's Last Hunt, and more. He killed Aunt May for the first time, and he knows the character. He understands the character, but also the SOB understands story structure and how to weave a narrative set in a time when you might actually know everything that happened to that character and still manages to seamlessly fit it in and surprise you. In this one, it's shortly after Sandman was defeated for the first time, debuted and then was defeated by a vacuum cleaner. He's very upset with Spider-Man for having done so. He's just a really insecure person, and he's trying to rob a bank. He runs into Spider-Man. They have a fight. It goes on. Spider-Man is having a really hard time, so he's also dealing with this kind of fear of his own power, where he's like, I can't use my power or on a regular person. I'll kill them. But dealing with Sandman, he's like, this guy's made of sand. I can let loose in this guy. And that kind of like purges some of his own like negative feelings, but realizing that they're both very evenly matched. The two of them basically do a story that I pitched years and years and years ago.
Okay.
Where the two of them just go like, time out. And so the two of them leave together and they go on like a rooftop and they just talk about life. And essentially they're just like, you know, look, man, like essentially, you know, Sandman's like, you know, I could never do what you do, but you know, let's call a ceasefire for 24 hours. And Pete's like, yeah, okay. And his and his like, it's a flashback story. So older Peter's like, I can't believe I let him go.
Right. Okay.
And but what's funny is if you actually know the canon, and the next time you see Sandman, which would technically be the next day, the Human Torch stops Sandman in a Fantastic Four comic.
Oh, really?
So it's like, oh,
okay. So he doesn't have to worry about it.
He doesn't have to worry about it.
Little does he know he didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and there's also a great, you know, there's a subplot of like, you know, in the story, you know, Uncle Ben was murdered very recently, and yet, you know, so you got a widow and you got like a bereaved nephew, surrogate son, and the two of them are like cracking jokes or making references and stuff like that. You know, Peter's like, I'm off, you know, to be Spider-Man. I'm going to abandon my geriatric aunt, widow, in her own empty house. And so the two of them have like this really weird kind of like tense relationship. And so we're seeing that. We're seeing like Peter needs to talk to her and they need to hash it out, but they won't. And I'm like, that's Spider-Man.
Right.
Good stuff. And the art's fun. There's also a subplot about a goblin guy. I don't care. It's fine. You know, Proto Goblin. Oh yeah, and the fact that like Norman Osborn's wife is like a character, and they're doing stuff with her, and I don't know anything about that character, so it's fun to see her being utilized. Yeah, obviously, she either goes to Europe or dies at the end of the story because she ain't in anything. But you know, we'll see. I mean, it's JMD. I know he'll do it justice. So, but it's a joy, especially and I'm glad I read it after I read Amazing Spider-Man. Woof. But yeah. Anyway, this should be, and it's interesting. There's actually a thing about Ultimate Spider-Man, how Ultimate Spider-Man is outselling Amazing Spider-Man every time the issue comes out.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So far.
The
only problem is Amazing Spider-Man still is #1 every effing time it comes out.
But then how is it out? Not out? Oh, because it's #1 for that week. Yeah. And they're not coming out against one another.
They rarely do.
Okay.
So yeah, it's fun. But you know,
I mean, I get it. That's smart. It means each week, you know, you're getting X amount of money in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But if you ever wanted to see a regime shift in Spider-Man, just vote with your wallet. If Shadow of the Green Goblin and Ultimate Spider-Man outsold Amazing Spider-Man, it would change.
I mean, you know what I forgot to read this week?
X-Men.
What? No, the Avengers book. I forgot that was a tie-in.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was gonna check that out, so I'll have to check that out for next time.
Next time.
So don't expect that conversation today. If anything happened in there, I apologize. But I did read Doctor Strange #15 this week, written by Jed MacKay with art by Pascal Ferry. Tie-in. We knew this was coming because you know, Jed MacKay is running Blood Hunt. Obviously, this book was going to be swept up in it.
Oh, last page of the last issue of Blood Hunt.
It was about Doctor Strange. I will question this at the start of this conversation. There's a warning on the first page that says like you must underlined.
Yeah.
Must read Blood Hunt #1 before reading this issue. And I'm wondering how this will collect.
Yeah.
Like in terms of Doctor Strange, not in terms of
Blood
Hunt.
My guess is Blood Hunt will just be collected Blood Hunt 1 through 5 or whatever.
Oh, sure. But like if you're just reading Doctor Strange,
you're just gonna be like, bah, what happened?
Yeah.
Probably that. I'm
wondering how they'll put this together. But yeah, this before we get into it, I like Jed MacKay as a writer, and I
okay.
What?
You're like, I just want to say out loud that I'm not a hater, and I do like his work.
I'm not a hater, and I'm not like I love what he's doing with Moon Knight, and I have really been enjoying his Doctor Strange. Maybe not as much as I've been enjoying his Moon Knight, but I've been enjoying his Doctor Strange. And I'm really torn on this issue, how I feel about it, and I don't know if I'll have a clear answer for a bit. You know, like I just really been like, I'm like, well, no, it's a fun issue, and I really like the premise of where this is going and what he'll be dealing with, and you know, this is the way he had to deal with it. That's fine. But I'm also starting to question is if every pitch Jed MacKay had for Doctor Strange involved Doctor Strange either not being there or being different.
Right.
Like it can't, like that's just what it feels like.
Yeah.
You know, like I was so thrilled with that little like
yes, that little like D&D kind of story
yeah,
or whatever.
like D&D Jumanji sort of story in between where it's just like look at Doctor Strange doing Doctor Strange things. And then this came along, and remember we were talking about last time. We were like, you're like, well, they're not going to make him be a vampire, and I'm like, well. So this issue literally, man, like it picks up, you know, a little overlap.
Yes,
a little overlap. So like they probably don't need to worry about that, but they'll probably put like a big info, like you know, like hey, check out Blood Hunt for more information when they collect this.
Sure.
But it's just like, oh no, Blade's a bad guy, huh? And then Blade stabs Doctor Strange in the chest.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he bites Doctor Strange.
Okay.
And then Doctor Strange is a
because
vampire.
Of vampire, yeah.
And essentially, you know, Blade like just talks up Clea, and he's like, I wonder if I could even turn you because you're a fall team. Because like Jed MacKay clearly
knows who Clea is.
Is in love with Clea, and that's fine. No, it's fine. We all have our favorites. You know, we all have like that character that if we were given a run on something, they would be there and they would be doing their thing. You know, he loves Clea and 8-Ball and I'd say Tiger over there.
And Hunter's Moon.
But that the idea here is that like I need like, you know, he's like, if I killed him, Clea, you would probably still do the Montesi formula.
Right.
And so the only thing I can do instead of just killing you both,
which I would definitely do,
is, you know, turn him into a vampire, and then now you won't use it because you won't be able to bring yourself to kill him.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. And so like we have like a big fight between them where she's just like, I'm a badass and I'll explain to you why I'm a badass. I'm like, I know
you don't need to. We've been reading Doctor Strange.
I know you're a badass. I know.
No, but I also like you're counting on this is probably going to be the big bump for this book because of Blood Hunt. Like they're counting on it. So she needs to contextualize the brand new readers about why she's such a badass.
Right. You know. So, you know, I really thought we were going to be going a different way with this. We are going, I think, the same route, not the same route, but we're getting to like a similar destination where I thought we might be going with it. But we're just getting there a different way. So, you know, Blade's like, yeah, I need you in a certain position or whatever. Like, you know, so I'm leaving you. Okay, bye. And he just leaves. And Clea is left to deal with Steven. You know, she uses the Crimson Bands and you know, it's shown that like you know, the Blade has like magic abilities too, and like crazy swords and like all of that, right?
Have they explained why Blade is a bad guy yet?
Not yet. Okay. You know, it's like feels like it's not him. Like they've like I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, Clea ends up just pulling Steven's like astral like form out, and you know, and he's just like, I couldn't like fight against it, and blah blah blah. And I want like. And here is what the problem is, right? Like I appreciate showing Strange as like fallible, but I feel like Strange hasn't had a whole lot of wins in MacKay's run in which like he has shown that he is the Sorcerer Supreme. Yes. I mean, at least versus General Strange, he gets like some going on there.
But it is himself.
But like in order to make Clea look more capable, they're just making him less capable seemingly. So it's just like, well, he has to, and there are reasons for all of this. Like he has to be in his astral form so something else can happen.
Yes.
Okay. Fine,
right. Sure.
Fine. It's just,
it's a shame.
It's
that
just strange. Like they're in the sanctum and all of
right, like shouldn't there be safeguards?
I feel like it should have just taken place elsewhere.
Yes.
Like it just
like what if they lured him out of the sanctum?
Bingo. Like something like that occurred. They were somewhere else. They were trying to help or whatever. It just seems odd to me that the sanctum wouldn't have safeguards
against
Strange is in his place of power.
Yeah.
I don't know. But needless to say, they're gonna work together and they're gonna like attempt to not fight over whether or not they should use the Montesi formula or not. They're just gonna go and try to help people.
Okay.
And that's all fantastic, right? And that's when like the rest of the characters show up. Like clearly, like a Defenders-esque cast shows up. It's Hunter's Moon, it's Tigra, and it's Miles.
It's Jed MacKay. It's the Jed bunch.
What? He's not running for Miles.
No, but it is Tigra and Hunter's Moon.
Right, and then like MacKay is like, hey, and don't forget we have Steven's brother. You know,
who's also a vampire.
In a mirror, yeah. And so like he's gonna go into the body of vampire Doctor Strange. And I was like, that's where we were trying to get to.
Yes.
And I knew we were going to be dealing with him, with his history,
Of course.
with his history with the vampires, with his history with the Matesi formula, with, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
I was like, if we're doing an event about vampires, this is going to come up. And, you know, having introduced him in that one story that was like couching other things, or it was like, here are some like wild tales of things to come, maybe, ha ha ha. And then like reminding us when bats and the snakes got sucked into the mirror that he was there. It's like, hey, don't forget. And I'm like, obviously this is going to come about.
Yeah.
I just thought it was going to come about without killing Doctor Strange again.
Right.
And I was incorrect about that. And that's why I'm like, I don't think it's bad. It's just, and I'm of two minds here, because I'm like, this just seems to be like the go-to.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's how we deal with these things, is that we get rid of, like, oh, we got to get him out of the way. And it's like, I get it. He's Sorcerer Supreme, you know, but you have another Sorcerer Supreme that you just seem to prefer. And that is, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. We got to do new stories. We got to try new things. It's just, it feels more obvious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then maybe that's the problem I had with it. But it's not really a problem at the end of the day. Like, I still enjoyed the story, and I am still looking forward to dealing with this, as long as Steven actually gets to deal with it.
Yeah, probably.
You know, it would be important to me to see the, like, you know, a little more of the brotherly relationship.
Yeah.
And the guilt that Strange has felt over this to come to a head.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna knock it. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna go into it thinking it like the next issue is gonna be negative when it comes out. Like, I'm just gonna read the story and see where it goes. But yeah, I was like, I figured there was going to be some clever way that McKay got himself out of what he wrote. No, we just let it happen. And, you know, that is like, I think a quality that people really respond to in McKay's work, is that he's unafraid to do these big sweeps, these big swipes, and then like figure out how to fix it in the long run, instead of like trying to make it not happen. So I think there is something about that for sure. So anyway, there you go.
There you go.
But again, if you haven't been reading Doctor Strange, you'll probably be okay if you just wanted to read this as a tie-in. I think you'll probably be good. That's
fair.
You know, you'll be like, who's this guy in the mirror? And like, it's fine. I have a feeling you're probably right that he figures that people might be coming into this for the first time. You'll probably get plenty of explanations, so you could probably go figure it out. Anyway.
I read Birds of Prey number 9. This is, of course, Kelly Thompson and I believe Jonathan Case and Gavin Guidry doing art duties on this series. Same colorist, so we still have that like odd kind of like blurred or double negative effect that's going on all the art, which you know, it's like the art trading duties, there is a narrative reason for it and it works. I just like, and clearly the visual language of the series is this kind of like decision, this color decision from Jordi Belair, which is objectively good. I don't know if I like it, but I understand that it is a style that is deliberate and it's working. You know, or at least it will be an unmistakable style of this run of Birds of Prey. The birds go to another reality, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the hell happened in this book. That's what happens in this series sometimes. I love this book, and I really enjoy this collection of characters, and I think that it's a fun concept. But there's two issues in this entire run where I go, what the hell was this? Not like it's not like it was like, oh, they acted out of character or they did something like objectionable. No, it's more like, I'm sorry, I just read this whole book and I have no idea what happened in it. It's weird. It just like hits.
Is it just that like not a lot? Like, is it more like it was setting up the next issue kind of scenario?
I have no idea how to describe it.
Because it says it's a part 1.
It certainly is, but you also can't jump in here. You don't know who they are or what they're doing or why they're doing it. You know? Yeah, no, it's true. No, I just mean, but it's like, you know, it's part 1 of the next arc, and you know, but it certainly isn't. Like, it doesn't feel like a part 1. It feels like a part 9. It's everyone's consistent. The characters are fun. I like seeing their interactions. But yeah, I know what's going on. Well, I'm glad. I mean, you better. But I don't know.
It feels like it's one of those where maybe you're not getting all the answers in this
no it's true,
and
but
like you know like that. I think that's fun sometimes when you remember that it's like this is a story told in a whole as opposed to like having a like single issue, which I think is always a struggle for some folks, even just trying to break into reading comic books.
Yes.
Because you're used to, like, you're handed a book, and even if that book's in a series, the book itself is like, here's a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
And technically this has a beginning, middle, and end, but it's so much more tethered to the rest of what the whole.
Yeah.
That you're only looking at a fraction of it in that moment. And so, like,
right.
I appreciate modern comic book storytelling that doesn't feel like they have to, like, do what older books did, where they were like, I better tell you every
right, or they reiterate what happened, or they
over and over
re-explain
again.
it. No, and I mean, like, it's very straightforward because there's two plots, and the birds are in another reality, and they're looking for Barbara, and they think they found her, and then she teams up with them, and then it turns out that it's not Barbara; it's actually like a monster that's pretending to be Barbara, and then they have to go to another reality.
Yeah.
And so that's the story of this. So, but it's mostly just the characters, like, in interesting, fun, alternate reality costumes that are, like, cute and fun and interesting, or at the very least, like, neat to watch. But then there's another story, which is essentially just like watching a character that I really don't like or care about. I don't have a real problem with them, but, like, Meridian is not a character that I'm, like, intimately familiar with or really have any stake in. But Meridian bumps into Ollie and Zealot and basically teams up with them to, like, essentially try and recover the birds of prey. And so, like, that's her plot.
Right.
And, and so for me, I'm just like, oh yeah, Meridian, right? My eyes close over.
Right.
But it's, you get to see a lot of fun, like, moments. You get to see giant, horrible bat monsters, and
that's awesome.
Dinah using her scree power and stuff like that. Like, it's, and I love Cassie's costume. Like, there's her Batgirl costume is really fun, and just, like, very different. Barda also has a fun, similar costume, which is cool. But, like, it's one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, it's okay.
What do you think of the art, though?
Oh, the art's great. I mean, and both stories, do a wonderful job of telling their part of the story. And I think that it is it Grifter? Was it Grifter? Sorry. Thought it was Ollie. Grifter and Zealot. That makes more sense. For a minute I was like, did Ollie and Zealot hook up?
Why would they ever do that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. You're just not used to him seeing without his.
I'm really not used to him not wearing the mask.
Wait, you think he wears it all the time?
He should, for me to know who the hell he is. But yeah, the art's okay. No, the art's fantastic. But yeah, and also I was also happy to see them include Grifter and Zealot, knowing that now that's Grifter. It's more about Zealot for me.
Yeah.
But re-include Zealot because Zealot, part of the conceit of the original team of Birds of Prey was like, oh man, Zealot is on this team.
Yeah.
Could use a Zealot, despite the, since Wildcats doesn't sell books. But I was sad to see her go because it was like this implication that we're going to change rosters. But
right.
But I'm like, yeah, that's sweet. All right, cool.
Right.
Yeah, and there were also it's blonde guy with facial hair in Star City. Thank you. Yes. I was like, oh yeah, Ollie. I genuinely, my brain was just like, yeah, you got it. You know who it is.
You've also been reading more Green Arrow than usual.
I
don't know if you.
I do have more Green Arrow on the brain. I don't normally read Green Arrow.
Yeah, so you probably would have normally jumped.
Yeah, I'd have been
Grifter,
like, oh, Grifter, yay,
because you can see his blonde hair.
Yeah,
that is
definitely
the conceit of his mask.
Yeah, no, the point of it is he's Gambit, but in the Wildstorm universe. But anyway, yeah, I as much as this issue in particular was like, it was very trimmed down, like in terms of story. It's just like, do this, like two characters both trying to achieve the same goal. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, two stories that are going in the same direction.
Yeah.
It's still a great series. Kelly Thompson's really crushing it when it comes to like using these characters and having them all work off each other, and nobody feels more important than the other.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah. So, fantastic.
Yeah, I like Birds of Prey. It's
excellent. I got one more.
Great. Me too.
And it's X-Men Forever.
All right. X-Men Forever.
A non-blood,
no blood
hunt tie-in here. This is X-Men Forever number 3. I think this is 3 of 4. I think I'm giving the squinty eyes of. I think I'm sure of that. It's written by Kieran Gillen with art by Lucas Maresca. And this is like the Kieran Gillen, still wants to write about Mystique and Destiny storyline, but also like trying to take care of some other threads, maybe some other relationships that he had brought up and Spurrier had brought up in some earlier books. And Spurrier obviously hasn't been writing X-Men or any sort of Krakoan mutant books for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like he's just trying to, take care of a couple of things here. Like, we're dealing with Shaw being like not a mutant. Remember when he joined Orcus and they took his powers away from him? Well, he gets them back in this issue.
Oh, how?
There's a vial of his genes that he has nearby. Well, don't forget that set is very Shaw.
Yeah.
He's playing all sides.
Right, of course.
It's like, oh, well, if I think the mutants will win, then obviously I'm going to go back to being, oh, I was with you the whole time, right?
Yeah.
It feels like in this, though, he definitely sees
like how bad it is. Like, I kind of really made a deal with the devil today.
I really need to like get away because it wasn't just making a deal with Orcus. Now I've had to deal with the AI, and maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I think I might be in over my head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how he gets Emma's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's just like, he's walking along with like his assistant, which he's pretty sure has been replaced by an AI, and it has been. And so he's just trying to get Emma's attention.
Yes.
And he's like, Emma, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you in your underwear, which is not very hard to do.
Right, because that's what your costume is.
Yeah. And he's like, come on. And so she's like,
hey.
Ew. Don't be gross. But yeah, so Shaw gives a code that'll help to take down a few of the Stark Sentinels. It's a binary code that could be used to like turn them off. So yeah. Additionally, at the start of this, Doug wakes back up. It turns out like he had been in Krakoa.
Yeah, the whole time.
The thing, not the island. I don't know. It seems that like they were just trying. Krakoa was taking care of Doug, and now they need Doug.
So Krakoa births Doug.
Yep, and then Doug's able to use the code, speak binary.
Sweet.
Destiny is back in Krakoa. Like the team from the White Hot Room has arrived.
Good.
And she's like, I'm back in the timeline. I can see
what's going to happen. Yeah.
She's like, we don't win. Like, we don't win.
You're right.
And they think like she means the battle. And she's like, oh, no, I mean like the battles ain't the war, hon.
Yeah.
Like, but Hope is in charge of bringing the Phoenix back, even though it was like Rachel's plan.
Job.
It was Rachel's plan. Like it was Rachel's job to come up with the plan, and so she did, and then she left, and then it was Hope's job to deal with it.
Yes.
And they have to kill the Phoenix, right? They have to actually kill the Phoenix so that it can truly be resurrected.
But it's afraid.
It's afraid. It's afraid of a lot of things. But it's definitely afraid of that.
Yeah.
Coming to an end and then being reborn. And so she like presumably was going to shoot it.
Right.
But she's like, I'm going to need something a little bigger than that. And so she goes back to where some of the folks from Krakoa who were not capable or known, didn't have names.
Forgotten.
Are. And so she asks everyone to essentially start tapping out SOS because it'll reverberate through the two Krakoa.
Okay.
Which I was like, that is such a Kieran Gillen like
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Convention. I love it.
Yep.
So Doug hears it, and they realize that they need Manifold, and essentially she needs a specific weapon. And in order to make that happen, they're going to need to use Manifold in order to bring the Hope Sword that Nightcrawler has to her.
Okay.
Right. While Manifold is attempting to make the portal between the two places, Mystique pops up. And she's like, I'm going to kill you, Destiny.
Oh,
I'm going to kill you because you kept everything from me. Like, she's pissed.
Yeah.
And Destiny's like, no, see, we had to do it this way because like, I knew that like all these things and, and you wouldn't blah, blah. Like Destiny was doing the thing where she's like, no, we love each other, but I love you so much. I didn't trust you to not die. And I didn't trust everything to happen the way it should have happened. So like, I took control of it because I love you so much. And Mystique's like, that's not love. That's not love. It's not love.
We are going to have a big wedding issue, so.
Well, I guess
it's going to work out.
I hope so. Are they really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers.
It was solicited months ago.
I don't look at solicitations for that specific reason.
I'm sorry. Well, yeah. No, it's going to work out.
Wow. If that was a commenter, you've been so mad at them. Now you can be mad at yourself.
Well, there you go.
But
I thought we talked about it.
Essentially, they also deal with like the Kurt, like Destiny whole thing.
Yeah.
Where like Kurt's like, like I'm really like, I'm happy and I'm like, I'm angry, but like, we're going to work it out. And he's like hugging her and she's like, oh, honey, I don't love you.
Right.
I have no maternal feelings toward you at all. Like I had Xavier like seal all those away just in case.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't give a crap about you.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's incredible because I'm just like, I hate you so much, Destiny.
Yeah.
And Kieran Gillen's not letting up on this.
Good.
So hopefully that means we'll have some sort of like character building moment for her.
That'd be nice.
But Mystique's like, okay, here's what we need to do. I don't care about anything that's happening on Krakoa. We need to go find Charles Xavier and convince him to like revert what he did to you so that we can fix this and deal with this as a family.
Okay, Mystique. You know, it's your fault, right?
And they're like, and Destiny's like, I'm not going to tell you where he is because you'll die then.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I'm just going to find him myself. And she just leaves. And Kurt's like, this is
horrible.
This is a weird day.
Right.
This is a weird day for me.
He's like, where's Rogue?
Yeah. And then like Exodus is like, hey man, listen, I know you got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is,
Mm-hmm.
we got like end of the like world for everybody, and your parents. That's a hot mess. But like, we need you, man.
Yeah.
We need you. I need your sword. And Kurt's looking at this massive portal that Manifold has created.
Yeah.
And he's just like, listen, this doesn't seem very safe. Like, it's typically not safe, like what I'm doing, but like this is like extra not safe. And I really appreciate it because this is Gillen like needing to give some sort of explanation as to what's happening, right? Where like Destiny's like, well, here's the problem. There are living people in a place where living people should not be.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's a little destabilized.
Okay.
And so Kurt's like, I don't think I'm gonna make it, but like, I mean, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I could just kind of like bamf in and out. Like, I don't really know what it looked like, but like, I'll do it. And Exodus is essentially like, listen, like you're brave and you're awesome and all that, but like, it has to be me.
Yeah.
Like, I have to do it.
Okay.
But like, give me your sword.
Yeah.
They don't realize it's the sword. Like they just assume they need to get back initially, but Exodus is like, no, I need your sword. Give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he takes it and he goes forth and he sees Hope and he's just like, Hope, come here.
Yeah.
And he wants to like go and bear the burden for her. He's like, I'll kill the Phoenix for you. Mm-hmm. And she's like, nah, man, like, come on. Like, this is all you've ever wanted me to do is like Messiah stuff. And so here I am. I'm doing it. Right. I'm doing the thing you wanted me to do. You should be thrilled. And, so she takes it. He goes back. And like, as like she's headed back where she came from, Cable shows up to like say his goodbyes in like a cold Cable way where he's like, see ya. She's like, yep.
Bye, Dad.
She says, I love you. And then she, goes off and the sword starts talking to her and is like, not a sword person, are you? Mm-hmm. Before like, she also goes like, you're alive.
Oh, so it can turn into other things.
Right. Well, the sword is like, I'm Legion. Like I'm part of Legion.
Right.
And I was like, oh, of course, Gillen's going to bring it all. Coming around.
Spurrier's like, thank you.
Spurrier, Gillen, clearly again, like Gillen's he feels like he is a team player.
Yeah.
Just a team player. But because of the fact that it's like a living weapon, it's able to change, and so it becomes a gun, and Hope gets to go into like a standard, more of a Hope looking like a look for her.
Yeah.
Big gun, whole thing. It's a little more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Jean has basically, she's back, she's cogent.
Yes.
And she's like, I'm focused entirely on the Phoenix and its fear right now. Mm-hmm. We have to go hunt it down. We got to do this.
Okay.
The Enigma has realized what's happening thanks to Mother Righteous, kind of spilling the beans on that, and is like, yeah, the problem is like, I really can't look into the white hot rooms for all the power Enigma has and abilities to see everything. Can't really see in there.
Okay.
So the problem is, they're clearly going to attempt to resurrect the Phoenix, which can kill Dominions.
Right.
So that's a problem.
Okay.
So how am I going to deal with this? Well, I know that Hope is the one who's doing it.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Terminator this.
Okay.
I'm going to go back and I'm going to take care of Hope's mom.
Oh.
And so we see like Enigma in the past or future or whatever talking to Hope's mom about like a future pregnancy.
Okay.
And I'm like, we dropping this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Gillen, I trust you.
Fine.
Let's do this.
If Gillen's going to retcon who Hope is, that's awesome because it means
I don't know if they're going to do that or like, or if Cable's going to show up. I have no idea. And I'm not going to even pretend. I'm just going to like take it away, Gillen.
Yeah.
I trust you. But great looking art, just like a really fantastic looking issue, like gorgeous colors in this. Like colors really stood out to me for this issue. Colors provided by my brain. Federico
Mhm.
Blee.
Ah.
I wanted to add an extra R in there. That was part of my problem.
Okay.
But just gorgeous looking book. And like I said, like this is a jam-packed issue without feeling overwhelming. But
Good.
like I feel like a lot of Gillen's books,
Are
he's
like
able
that.
to pack a lot.
Yes.
You know, again, we often talk about
Decompression and compression, yeah.
and like this isn't compression. This is just
packed.
This is tight.
Yeah.
It's just a tight issue. So
fair enough. Yeah. Speaking of what's going on in the super chats really quick. Charzy says, I don't know how, but Jorge Jimenez's art feels tangible, but stylized. His costumes feel like real material.
Yeah.
Despite being the skin tight look is terrific.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. There's some I measure a lot of like my enjoyment of superhero costumes based on like how tangible the suits are. I don't know why that is, but it's funny. I have the same and I never really got that from does he say it's Mora? Jorge Jimenez. But I do get it from I do get it a little bit from Jimenez. But the one when I first noticed it was in the Batman the first Batman 89 comic book adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one where I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That looks like it's made of like rubber. But yeah, speaking of Batman, speaking of that, of course, I read Batman 147 from Chip Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez.
Very nice.
Continuing the story, unfortunately, because we know what is happening in Absolute Power. We know that there's no resolution to the failsafe arc, so this is kind of toothless. But let's talk about the book as it stands on its own. Failsafe, Zur-En-Arrh, Batman is hanging out with Damian. He's convinced Damian to team up with him. That's the Batman and Robin, Rick and Morty for 100 years, Batman and Robin. And, Damian is like, well, as far as, because, Failsafe, Batman shows up and he's like, Bruce died, like I died. And I uploaded my consciousness into my robot. And so now it's me being Batman doing my thing. And no one and everyone believes it, but nobody believes it. And Damian's the one who mostly believes it. And so he's like, yeah, I'm in. Sounds good. You mean I can abandon being Damian? I can just be Robin all the time? That's all I wanted. And you're Batman all the time? Let's do it. Let's punch Harley Quinn in the face. So Batman's like, Zur-En-Arrh, Batman's doing his thing. Meanwhile, Vandal Savage has become Commissioner Gordon, or has become the commissioner of Gotham. And then that's a thing I want to read about. But Failsafe rescues him from an assassination attempt and then is like, you're Vandal Savage, you're a bad guy, one of them to take you down. Also, Mayor Nakano, don't forget that everyone forgets that you exist because Gotham mayors don't matter. But no one's actually dealt with you, but I will one day. Goodbye. Meanwhile, Amanda Waller is like, if Batman decides, Failsafe Batman, Zur-En-Arrh Batman decides he's going to like take over or leave Gotham and he's going to go international, I'm going to have to take him down. And no, you won't. You're going to team up with him. I know. I've read the first preview issue for Absolute Power, so I don't care. Meanwhile, Batman is talking about how hard it must be for Chip Zdarsky to write this book because he's like, so, I'm like Zur-En-Arrh was in my head. So he took my brain. So he knows what I'm thinking. So like, if I try to outwit him, he's going to outwit my outwitting. So I got to like be 3 steps ahead of him. So it's just like, I don't know. I just got to think of things that he would like either not think of or forget about. So I'm going to go to the old like Happy Harbor, Rhode Island headquarters for the Justice League.
Okay.
And set up base there. And we get a cute little scene between Batman and Barry, like in the past, a little flashback that says that Barry invented Batman's yellow smoke tablets. Like we need that. And obviously Failsafe Batman is like he's just set up shop. Like, obviously he took over Blackgate and Arkham. The character that Zdarsky created in his The Night book, who's also the linchpin to everything and is the reason why the Joker is so powerful and why Zur-En-Arrh exists in the first place, is the warden of the Blackgate place, and he's going to try and take down. Well, he's playing chess with, Failsafe Zur-En-Arrh Batman, where he's like, oh, maybe I'll take you down too one day. Meanwhile, Robin fights the like group that's going to be attacked by Amanda Waller, while Failsafe Batman fights Amanda Waller and talks to her for a minute. So then, Batman leaves Happy Harbor. He goes to like a secret base. I want to say it's like it can't be the Three Jokers cabin because Three Jokers isn't in continuity anymore. But he has like a cabin that his father built when he was
Wouldn't
a
the
child.
failsafe know all these things?
Yeah, but he's like hoping that he'll like have thought about it, but then like dismissed it because it's not as important as like the next thing or something like that.
Okay.
All that we know is like we're gonna retcon that like Thomas Wayne also built a cabin in the woods, and so Bruce moves in there, and is working on a new Batman suit. Tim shows up, and they're like, "Hey, Robin and Batman, 100 years, Batman and Robin, let's do this. We're gonna take down Zur-En-Arrh together." Remember when my arc started? Remember when Chip started Batman and Tim was Robin, and then she got shot in the throat and wasn't Robin in this entire run anymore? Well, you're Robin again. Let's go.
Does Damian still think this is actually Bruce's?
Yes, he does. Until in this book, Zur-En-Arrh Batman reveals to Damian that he's making failsafe robots of all of the Justice League using Amazo tech. And so it's going to be the League, but he's dumping all the multiversal Zur-En-Arrhs into them.
Why wouldn't he just make the Bat Family?
Right. Well, because this isn't too much like Dark Knight's Metal yet. So now we got to have all these different alternate Batmans that are also Justice Leaguers, like we did in Metal.
Right.
Which makes me think like even more. I think we talked about this before, but like when is Batman going to get the Batman who laughs to take down Zur-En-Arrh? Because at that point I'm in. Like I hate the Batman who laughs because of how overdone and terrible he is, but also I'm amazed at the amount of restraint they've had in not using him.
Right.
And also at this point I'm so sick of Zur-En-Arrh like robot Batman that I would love to see Batman who laughs fight him. They could both just fly off to their own, like.
Yeah, but they may not be able to do that. Not with.
Oh, you mean? Well, that's a rumored thing. We don't know.
Absolute Power.
Oh, Absolute Power. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, no, we can't because Absolute Power is an event that stars Zur-En-Arrh Batman.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he'll show up in that.
You think? Was it Mark Waid is doing that?
Yeah, Mark Waid's doing that.
You think Mark Waid's gonna be like, let me use
the Batman who laughs? I don't know. Wade loves continuity in canon. He's a smart guy. I don't know. Anyway. This is what tips Damian off that maybe he's not really Bruce Wayne, and realizes, oh no, you're Zur-En-Arrh Batman.
Yeah, maybe don't like immediately attack. Like, shouldn't you be like?
Yeah, he literally
smarter than this.
Yeah,
like,
but he's
aren't
Damian.
You like Damian? Aren't you supposed to be like amazing?
Yeah, I think Chip, like Scott and me, don't like him.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
So so instead of him quietly plotting and just silently like leaving, he's like, wait a minute, Zur-En-Arrh, that's you. So Batman's like, so Zur-En-Arrh's like, nah, I'm gonna hit you with tentacles and make you into something else. And like, I am completely baffled by the 2-page reveal, because of course, like,
Rah, I'll kill you.
Rah. He literally says rah. But like, okay, so because all the Robins look the same, they're all boys with black hair and medium builds. I don't know which Robin this is supposed to be. Like, I don't know if Zur-En-Arrh infects Damian with a Zur-En-Arrh, or reveals that he had a Zur-En-Arrh within Damian and then gives Damian a Zur-En-Arrh Robin suit, or if this is an Amazo robot that is supposed to be Tim, because
he says unless I make him myself. So
right,
I assume like that would be that he was a Damian robot. But
he also does envelop Damian in like tentacles. I see now that like there's a tube that's opening behind him. Yeah. But again, like, is that Tim? Is that Damian? Is that Jason? Like, which Robin is it supposed to be? And why is he flesh and blood, but all the robots are robots?
Terminator rules?
I don't know. Also, it was like, oh, that's a big reveal where it's like, oh, I guess he must have taken over Tim and made Tim into Zur-En-Arrh. But then Tim goes to the cabin and teams up with Batman.
Maybe that's not happening at the same time. Maybe it's happening afterwards.
Oh my God. So I don't know. It's baffling.
I mean, wait, go back. Let me see the other guy again. That could be Damian.
Yeah, it could be Damian.
It could be Damian with really different hair.
Yeah, but like, why wouldn't?
But then it's like, but if it was Tim, it would also be Tim with different hair.
Yeah,
maybe it's like a totally different guy.
It could be a different. Yeah,
it's
different
like
guy.
It's like a combination of
all their
Robins.
DNA. Yeah,
he's like they're
cloned all of you.
Similar enough, so I just made one.
Yeah,
the ultimate Robin.
Yeah.
Amalgam Robin.
Anyway, no, Batman makes a new suit. Then he's like, I'm gonna fight.
He's a flock of Robins.
There you go. Yeah, his name is Flock. That's his character. When you're reading it's fun. Okay. But when you're trying to explain it, I mean, like, look, there's a lot of like.
Yeah, I don't ever really hear you talking about this negatively. But
No, it's
I
just more like it's just like when I start to think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of a mess. Um, yeah, well, because it's all predicated on like stuff that is not something everyone read. Like you need to have read The Knight in order to understand the Warden of the Blackgate. You need to have read the backups that established that Zur-En-Arrh Batman is retconned to have fought Joker, and that's Joker's motivation to even find out the guy from The Knight, and then become the one true Joker. Like the three Jokers are also retconned. Like there's so much in this, and it's like describing it is not as fun as reading it, obviously, but like, or maybe it is actually. It's kind of fun to just be like, here's something that's insane. It's basically back issues at that point, but like, I don't know.
I'm incorrect. It's not a flock. They're often called a blush.
That's the character's
or
name
a
now.
bobbin. You can also go with a breast, a carol, a gift, a riot, a
I like
rouge,
blush.
a round.
Yeah, that's too many things. I'd go with a blush of his name's Blush. He's all the Robins. He knows everything they know. Anyway, it's good.
Also, a group of ravens is called a congress.
Ooh, that's fun. As opposed to a murder. I like that.
It's a murder of crows, but it's a congress of ravens.
That's fun.
Thanks, internet.
Yeah, there you have it. Let's talk about what's coming out this week that we think you should check out. Oh, what's our book of the week?
What's your book of the week?
Oh man,
it's like my job to go wait.
It's true. I think that I'm going to make it. Where is it? Because I really I think that I gave it to Birds of Prey recently, but I like Shadow of the Green Goblin.
Nice. Okay.
I think I'm going to give it to Shadow of the Green Goblin this week.
I'm going to give it to X-Men Forever.
Oh, what a shot!
Right.
That's fair. Yeah, but I like that. I mean, like, no, good for Gillen.
Yeah.
Let's recommend some books that are coming out. Action Comics 1065 is coming out. Yay! Like I said, I came up with Book of the Week, but Tiffany remembers it. Yeah, it's true. Action Comics 1065 is coming out. Continuing House of Brainiac. This is a great series. A lot of fun. Good event. It's cool. I have to pick up Green Lantern. I got to see where that's going because I really enjoyed what I read. So I have to see how it's continuing. Batman and Robin #9. This is a book that ignores what's happening in every other Batman book. And if you like well-adjusted Batman and well-adjusted Damian, and Damian and Batman having having girl talk, talk about girls, it's cute, fun. I like it. There's also a new book called Doom #1.
I was gonna be like, how are you not talking about whatever this is?
Yeah.
What?
With story and writing by Jonathan Hickman and Sanford Green.
And art.
With art also by Sanford Green. Yeah. I'm gonna read this. It's one book. It's just one issue.
Giant size one shot.
Giant size one shot called Doom. I would love to see Jonathan Hickman reestablish Doom post Secret Wars, because that's been a tough sell for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm gonna probably try out Redcoat #2 from Ghost Machine. See how that's coming along.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else is coming out. Nope. I see Mousetown is coming out. That'll be fun. Alien Black, White, and Blood is always a treat. It's always fun to see that treatment, because it's also there's not a lot of you don't have to be invested. You can just pick it up and try it and see where that's going.
Nice.
Like, hey, aliens, yay, I love them. And I think that's it for me. Yep, I'm dead.
Obviously, when you're picking up Ultimate X-Men #3 by Peach Momoko, end of story. Don't even.
Yep.
Friggin' X-Men Forever #4 is coming out this week.
Didn't it come out last week?
Yep.
Holy crap.
This is it.
Oh no.
Yeah. Good stuff. I mean, there's plenty of Gillen X-Men you can go back and read from years ago that has nothing to do with Krakoa.
Yeah.
I just want to see who's on this.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally different. So,
yep.
All right,
Never heard of them.
So yeah, I will 100% be picking that up. I'm gonna try to jump back into Ms. Marvel. I feel like I don't remember if I read the last one.
I thought you did, but I don't remember.
Maybe I did. So I'll probably grab Ms. Marvel Mutant Menace #3. That's Sabir Pirzada and Iman Vellani writing it, with art by Scott Godlewski. So yeah, I think I'm gonna try and jump back into that story. I was enjoying,
yeah,
Iman's flair. Yeah, her flair on that book. I just wanted to see who was writing this.
Yeah. Oh, there's the return. Okay, so like they did a symbiote Spider-Man esque take on Venom, where they gave David Michelinie the reins of the original Venom character, and saying like, here's some flashback stories that happened in between his appearances and stuff like that. So there's a new book called Venom Separation Anxiety, which is not to be confused with Venom Separation Anxiety, which was not written by Michelinie in the first place, but that'll be fun. I might check it out. Cute cover, where it's like a homage to Web of Spider-Man #1, which is always a fantastic. Love that book. Long Live the King in Purple. I don't know what that means, but I will see. I'll give it a try. There's so few books coming out this week that I'm reading.
I thought you might maybe check that out.
Yeah,
potentially. I don't know. It feels like you kind of thing. For Godzilla fans, I just want to throw this out there. IDW is putting out Godzilla, the 70th anniversary issue #1. So if you are a Godzilla fan, you might want to go check this out. Pretty fun cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty fun cover.
People really want to see us see our takes on Godzilla.
FYI, this is a $10 book, but it's a $10 book because it's a one shot and it's 96 pages.
96 pages.
So that's
dope.
That's massive.
Yeah,
that is absolutely massive. It's a bargain in my opinion.
I think so.
I think so.
Especially with Joel Jones on some of that art. I mean, come on.
Is that who's the artist? A bunch of the art is done by. Where do you see Jones? Oh, look at that. Beloved. Oh, wow. Yeah. Michael Conrad.
Matt Frank, James Stokey, Adam Gorham.
Dan DiDio.
Yeah,
so go check that out for sure. If you're a Godzilla fan, IDW is putting out, again, it's a 70th anniversary one shot. It looks like it's going to be huge. Like I said, it's going to be a pretty penny, but it's not like you're getting a little bit of a book. You're getting a bit of a book.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think that's kind of it for like the big things I'll be picking up.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I wanted to catch up on. That I didn't get a chance to get to this week. Obviously, I'll hopefully grab that Avengers book because it is Jed McKay. But I'm gonna also read the Doom book.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, you kidding me?
Tiffany did say Dan DiDio.
It's true. But we want to thank our super chatters.
That's what I thought it
said. No, it did. It did.
Okay.
It said Metal Men, like Dan DiDio of Metal Men. Oh, sure. Everyone remembers. But yeah, we want to thank our super chatters for sponsoring today's show. Thanks to the chat for being super and being respectful and cool and keeping it alive in the chat. And thanks to everybody for watching. We'll see you guys next time with another episode. You can always watch Tiffany play video games on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at twitch.tv/ComicPop or right here on YouTube at youtube.com/ComicPop Plays. And you can always help us out by patreon.com/ComicPop and so forth. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you guys next time with another episode. I'm Sal.
I'm Tiffany.
So long, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.